Central Tehran, 11 kilometers north of Azadi Tower, 2:10 in the morning, 84 U.S. Army Delta Force operators were moving through 4 approach lanes toward Obsidian Fortress, the command compound that protected Iran's regime crisis network. Inside the walls, 312 Iranian forces were defending 14 senior regime officials, 2 hardened signal bunkers, and 1 archive vault. The U.S. Army had 90 minutes to break the compound, seize the archive, and get out before Tehran locked down. Obsidian Fortress sat inside a sealed government district behind blast walls, anti-ram gates, and 4 guard rings. Iranian forces trusted the site because it had underground power, backup fiber lines, and 2 internal barracks linked by concrete tunnels. Cameras covered every road. Zu-23-2 anti-aircraft guns watched the roofline. DSHK heavy machine guns were set over the east and west motor gates. The inner vault level had steel doors, coded locks, and a reaction team that could move from bunks to firing points in less than 3 minutes. The compound mattered because it tied together internal security, emergency relocation, and the movement plans of Iran's top inner circle. If the archive left the city, entire protection routes would be exposed. Iranian forces believed no raid could cross central Tehran, hit the site, and leave before armored reinforcements arrived. The U.S. Army assault plan split fast. Alpha Element had 22 Delta Force operators and the main breach mission at the north wall. Bravo Element had 20 Delta Force operators and would cut power, cameras, and vehicle exits on the west side. Charlie Element had 18 Delta Force operators and would drive into the bunker level, seize the archive vault, and secure the officials if found alive. Delta Element had 24 Delta Force operators with snipers, heavy weapons, and outer roadblocks to stop Iranian forces from rushing the compound. 2 MK11 Mod 0 teams covered the roofs. A MK48 Mod 0 team, an M24 OB machine gun team, and a Carl Gustav M3 team moved with Delta Element. Every man carried either an M4A1 SOP Mod 2 or a MK18 CQBR. Breachers carried C4, shaped charges, thermite, and det cord. At 2:18, the assault began. A power junction on the west lane blew apart. Bravo Element cut the first camera loop 2 seconds later. Alpha Element hit the north wall with a linear charge. The blast dropped concrete slabs inward and filled the lane with dust. Delta snipers fired 4 shots and killed 4 rooftop sentries before the alarm button was pressed. Charlie Element crossed the service tunnel entrance as the compound lights switched to backup power. Iranian forces reacted in pieces, not as one force. Guards near the north wall ran toward the breach and met Alpha Element at 18 meters. M4A1 SOP Mahdi 2 rifles fired in short bursts. 11 Iranian forces went down in the first exchange. On the west side, 2 pickup trucks tried to leave the motor pool. Bravo Element hit the lead truck with an AT-4. The second truck swerved into a barrier. Its passengers jumped out with AK-74 rifles and a PKM machine gun. Bravo Element killed 7 and pinned 5 more behind the burning truck. By 2:20, the first positions were taken. Alpha Element owned the north yard and the admin block entrance. Bravo Element controlled the west power station and both vehicle ramps. Delta Element locked the 2 nearest streets with an M2 Browning on one truck and a MK19 grenade launcher on another. Charlie Element blew the tunnel hatch, dropped inside, and moved toward the bunker corridor. At 2:22, Alpha Element pushed into the admin block. The lobby doors were chained from inside. A breacher fixed date cord to the center seam and fired it. The doors folded open. Iranian forces inside the hall fired from behind a metal desk and 2 concrete pillars. Alpha Element answered with flash grenades and 3 fast entries. The first floor was cleared in 90 seconds. 6 Iranian forces were killed, 4 were wounded and disarmed. On the west side, Bravo element found the secondary generator room still running. An engineer had thrown the emergency switch before the first blast. At 2:24, Charlie element reached the tunnel split. The left branch went to barracks. The right branch went to bunker access. Charlie sent 6 operators left to block the barracks door and 12 operators right toward the vault. The right side corridor narrowed to one steel blast door. It was sealed. A breacher placed a shaped charge on the locking bar and detonated it. The door blew inward. Iranian forces behind it fired RPG-7 rockets down the hall. The first rocket hit the wall high and sprayed concrete. Charlie element went flat, returned fire with MK18 CQBR rifles, and pushed through smoke before a second rocket could launch. Iranian forces now understood this was not a drone strike or a sabotage hit. It was a live U.S. Army raid in the center of the capital. Now, the compound commander ordered all surviving guards inward and called for reinforcement from 2 nearby security battalions. That order came too late. Delta element had already blocked the nearest intersection with disabled buses, burning trucks, and 2 jammer vehicles. A PKM team on a rooftop 140 meters south tried to rake the roadblock. At 2:26, Alpha element reached the stairwell to level 2. Iranian forces had overturned file cabinets and built a firing point across the landing. Alpha element did not stop. A grenade went over the cabinets. Then 4 Delta Force operators rushed the stairs with MK18 CQBR rifles. The barricade broke. 3 Iranian forces were killed. 2 ran into a side office. Thermite burned the office lock, and Alpha element dragged them out 20 seconds later. On level 2, a signal room held 9 communication staff and 5 armed guards. The staff were zip-tied, the guards were killed. Bravo element shifted from the west generator room toward the east side relay link at 2:28. They crossed an open parking strip under fire from a DSK gun on the finance roof. The first burst hit one concrete post and showered fragments over the lane. A Javelin missile was too large for the angle, so Bravo used the faster option. An M249 SAW team pinned the roof. A second team moved under the wall line. At 2:30, 12 minutes into the operation, Charlie element broke into the lower bunker antechamber. This was the hardest point in the compound. 2 PKM machine guns covered the center lane. Sand-filled barriers protected the corners. Iranian forces had a second blast door open just enough to fire through. Young Charlie element split the lane. One team laid down fire with a MK48 Mod 0. Another team rolled 2 flash grenades low under the PKM arcs. The gunners flinched. A breacher crawled to the door track and set a small shaped charge on the hinge plate. The detonation ripped the steel clear. Charlie element surged through and killed 10 Iranian forces in less than 25 seconds. The bunker fight changed the whole battle. Iranian forces on the upper floors lost their protected fallback point. The command net inside Obsidian Fortress began to break apart. At 2:32, Delta element saw the first city response convoy turning into the outer district. It was 6 light trucks and 2 armored carriers loaded with Iranian forces. They came too fast and too close. Delta element let the lead trucks enter the kill zone. Then the M2 Browning opened fire. The MK19 followed. Glass blew out, tires burst, men fell from both sides of the road. A Carl Gustav M3 round hit the first armored carrier in the engine block. The second carrier tried to reverse. A Javelin missile struck its rear deck and stopped it cold. The convoy broke apart within 70 seconds. At 2:36, Bravo element hit the east stair tower and moved upward to roof level. Iranian forces were trying to set up 2 RPG-7 teams to fire into the north yard. Bravo reached the tower landing before the rockets cleared the parapet. MK18 CQBR rifles cut down the first team. the second team ran across the roof and tried to reach the ZU-23-2 position. MK11 Mod 0 sniper team on Overwatch killed one. Bravo killed the other three at the gun pit. The anti-aircraft crew was dead. The roof was secure. Charlie Element reached the archive level at 238. Now, the vault hall held one final choke point, 14 meters long, with two steel desks welded into a crossfire lane. Iranian forces behind the desks fired AK-74 rifles and threw 3 grenades. One grenade rolled back off the wall and exploded short. Charlie Element answered with measured fire. A breacher pushed a shield cart taken from the corridor. Another operator clipped date cord to the desk base. The charge snapped both anchor points. The desks tipped. Charlie rushed the hall and killed 9 Iranian forces. 2 others dropped their rifles and surrendered. At 2:40, 22 minutes after the assault began, Obsidian Fortress had lost both surface command floors, both relay nodes, the west motor lane, the roof guns, and the outer north yard. Still, the mission was not done. The archive vault and the inner circle safe rooms were still ahead. Iranian forces still had enough men left to make the final rooms costly. The vault door stood in front of Charlie Element with a wheel lock, electronic seal, and 3 side bolts. It was too thick for a quick manual breach. Charlie did not waste time. A shaped charge hit the lock plate. A second charge hit the upper hinge channel. The door sagged but held. A breacher ran forward with a hydraulic spreader taken from the service cart. He forced a gap wide enough for a thermite strip. The thermite burned the inner mechanism. 40 seconds later, the door opened. Inside were 26 hard drives, 18 sealed document cases, 9 encrypted satellite handsets, and 3 biometric key kits. There were also 4 regime officials protected by 11 Iranian forces in a rear panic room. Charlie Element split again. One team bagged the archive. The other fixed a linear charge to the panic room frame. The wall section blew inward at 2:42. Iranian forces inside fired wild and high. Charlie Element killed 7 in the first burst, wounded 3, and captured. The 4 officials were stunned, zip-tied, searched, and moved into the bunker hall. At 2:44, Iranian forces launched their last organized counterattack. 28 guards from the South Barracks pushed through the tunnel loop and tried to retake the archive level. They had 2 PKM machine guns, 1 RPG-7, and boxes of spare magazines. Charlie Element was carrying the archive load and could not absorb a long fight. Alpha Element fixed that. Alpha came down the central stairs from above. While Charlie held the tunnel mouth below, the Iranian force was trapped in a narrow connector. M4A1 SOP mod, 2 rifles hammered from both ends. A MK48 Mod 0 cut the center apart. The RPG gunner fired once and hit a wall. The round burst harmlessly into concrete. 20 of the 28 guards were killed, 5 were wounded, 3 surrendered. The strategic picture was now simple. Obsidian Fortress was broken into isolated pockets. Iranian forces no longer held any route that could restore the command post. Outside reinforcements were stalled by burning vehicles, blocked streets, and sniper fire. Inside, the U.S. Army held the roof, both main floors, the bunker gate, the archive, and 4 captured officials. The fight had turned from assault to timed extraction. Bravo Element used the next 2 minutes to prepare the demolition package. At 2:48, they planted thermite on the east relay room, C4 on the west generator remains, and charges on the roof gun mounts. They also recovered 3 server blades missed in the first sweep. 1 wounded Delta Force operator was moved to the north yard with a leg hit. 2 more had fragment wounds in the bunker lane. All were stable and moving with help. At 2:50, Alpha and Charlie moved the 4 captured officials and all archive material toward the tunnel exit. The load was exact and heavy. 26 hard drives went into shock cases. 18 document boxes were strapped to folding litters. 9 satellite handsets, and 3 biometric kits were packed into 2 hard cases. The movement took 4 minutes because every turn had to stay covered. Iranian forces still hidden inside rooms fired twice during the withdrawal. Both shooters were killed by rear security teams. By 2:52, Bravo element triggered the first demolitions. The east relay room burned out in a sheet of sparks. The west generator chamber collapsed into its own trench. 2 roof gun pits cracked and folded. Thick smoke rose over the district. Tehran finally knew the raid was real, but the timing was gone. The compound was already being emptied at 2:56. The objective was seized and secured. The archive was out of the vault. The panic room was empty. 4 regime officials were in U.S. Army custody. Obsidian Fortress had lost its command files, emergency route data, communications spine, generator node, and roof defenses. Bravo element made one final pass through the admin block and set thermite on 6 remaining server cores. Alpha element cleared the exit lane again. Charlie element counted bags, cases, litters, and prisoners a second time. Delta element held the streets for 6 more minutes. And by 3:12, every U.S. Army vehicle was outside the inner district. Overwatch tracked 3 Iranian helicopters lifting from a western base, but they arrived too late to see more than heat, fires, and blocked intersections. The raid inside Obsidian Fortress had lasted 54 minutes. The wider withdrawal took 16 more. By the 70-minute mark, the force and all seized material were moving away from Tehran. The final accounting was clear. The U.S. Army lost 3 killed and 9 wounded. Iranian forces lost 118 killed, 67 wounded, and 46 captured. The U.S. Army seized 26 hard drives, 18 sealed document cases, 9 encrypted satellite handsets, 3 biometric key kits, and 4 senior regime officials. The raid destroyed 2 signal bunkers, 1 command office, 2 relay rooms, 1 generator node, 2 Z-23-2 anti-aircraft positions, 1 DSHK position, 2 armored carriers, 16 trucks and utility vehicles, and secured or ruined an estimated $214 million in facilities, systems, vehicles, and classified equipment. Iran believed Obsidian Fortress could survive any raid long enough for Tehran to close around it. Iran believed its inner circle could disappear underground and wait behind steel. What actually happened was 84 U.S. Army Delta Force operators crossed the capital, broke the compound in less than 1 hour, and took its secrets with them. Iranian forces had walls, guns, tunnels, codes, and numbers. What they did not have was 84 U.S. Army Delta Force operators willing to tear the center out of Tehran in 90 minutes.